And welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Benched with Bubba, episode 835. We're coming at you on a Wednesday morning / early afternoon, depending on what coast you are living on. We're talking fantasy baseball, season long, best ball, you name it. We'll talk about it. A little potpourri, as some may say, in order to help me talk all things fantasy. Friend of mine, been too long since I've chatted with him. He is covering your best balls, your season longs, you name it. He does it over at his Substack. He's got all kinds of, she's deep in the sheets, as they say. He's got projections, rankings, you name it. He's doing it. He's got all kinds of, he just released this Underdog sleepers type article thing that looks amazing as well. He's drafted hundreds of drafts. I'm going to say hundreds. I'm probably speaking out of school, but he'll be there by the end of the season when things are all said and done. And you can find him on Court Stats. Anybody heard of that one? Great show coming at you daily throughout the year and the season. You can find him on Twitter at John Laghezza. Big John Stud. How we doing, my friend?
My gosh, I'm actually blushing. Holy crap. You saw what that was like talking to me. If I didn't mute my own mic, we would have never actually started the show. We would have spent the entire day of you just chewing your ear off. But yeah, that's what this is all about, man. It's Bubba. That's why I love your stuff so much. I think you've really got to be versatile. You know, it's not just 12s, it's not just 15s, it's not just draft and hold or points or roto or best ball, which format, plus betting when we get into the season and all types of DFS stuff that you do. Like, you know, there's really a fluidity now in the industry that you and I just kind of flow with that, man. So I'm looking forward today. We're really, right? It's going to be everything. Do we even have a topic list?
No, not really. We have a rough draft. Let's put it that way, because it's going to be rocking and rolling. And when the two of us,
And we won't even get to that.
Ever stay on top? Did ever stay on topic? No, we won't. But before we get to that, at least we'll stay this much on topic. Let everybody know what you do have going on. I kind of gave this rough synopsis because you cover all kinds of stuff, and you're always throwing out content. Like you are one of the busier dudes out there for sure. So let everybody know before we get really rolling in this.
Yeah, I do appreciate that. You know, with the volume comes trying to provide value. I would say just check out the Twitter handle at John Laghezza. It's my last name, Laghezza. The pin tweet is all kind of samples of a lot of the data you get. There's a link to the bio for the Substack. And again, the pin post there is just samples of everything you're going to get. We never want to blindside anybody. There's free looks at all the podcasts. I've been going down the board, starting with tier 1 pitchers, then moving between hitters and pitchers and stuff. And man, I'm finding, Bubba, that I don't like to draft now until I've given each of those guys that really good look, because you pop the hood and me say, we're going to get to it with a catcher. I'm glad I mentioned this. I want to make sure I put out a video on Twitter the other day about a certain catcher that just blew off the page for me, but it wasn't until I was kind of doing the gremlin thing, ripping up the wires to see what was going on. So, yeah, it's a little bit of everything. And again, check me at The Athletic, and it's just absolutely everywhere. Just check out the Twitter handle.
Yep, go check him out. It's always goods with Big John Stud. But let's get into we're going to start with the season-long aspect, and then just if anybody's got an itchy trigger finger, we're going to draft an Underdog dinger draft in about middle of the show and talk all things Underdog throughout that as well. But we'll start season-long here. You've done some drafts. We did a DC together. You reminded me of right beforehand. One of the common themes is relief pitching is through the roof right now. It's very, very crazy, and you have to pay for it. And it's not just a DC thing. Like if you get into the Fab Streets, it has not changed. You get into auctions, it has not changed. Relief pitching is very, very expensive. How are you approaching it? Because I'm asking everybody, because it's one of those you either have to accept that this is the market, and you are a guy that has played stocks, you do betting, like you know that when the market's the market, sometimes that's what dictates how things work. So where are you at in relief pitchers?
Yeah, and it's still really difficult. You're bringing up the two biggest flaws in my game, always coming from point leagues and best ball and betting. That fails with the nuance of Rota, where kind of steals and saves really matter. So those were the two things I struggled with the most, moving over to Roto and then into more high-stakes stuff. Relief pitching at the center of that. I think format is still paramount. I understand what you're saying, and you're not wrong. Prices are up because supply feels low. My counter to that is, as we get closer to opening day, some of these positions might become more clear. And in a Fab League, again, somebody who, like yourself, when you grind betting and daily and DFS, you're seeing these bullpen moves in real time. We see the guys that got the look in a high leverage spot, or maybe the hitter that came in after someone got hurt and got the extra look. So I like to think I'm pretty good at scouring the wire and being first, being early, knowing, especially in NFBC, you want to be thinking, this is something you talk about all the time, you want to be 2 weeks ahead. You don't want to be paying, yes, injuries can happen and somebody suddenly becomes available. That's a little different. I'm always churning because I'm generally not paying a third round cost or a fourth round cost in a fab league like I did in our DC, Bubba, a league I think you should pay a premium for, except I took Josh Hader. If I had my sound effects here, I'd be playing that wah, 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 because I undersold the shoulder stuff, and you snatched Chapman, who was my next in the queue, and that probably would have been the more prudent move.
That's pretty nice.
Yeah. So I think in DC's, to put a bow on it, I think you really want, in DC's, right, you need a guy that you can project for 30 saves. You need at least one, then you have to get creative. I think it's a disaster. You mentioned markets. I'm coming down with Sir Anthony Dominguez apparently in every draft because come like pick 170 or 180 where there really aren't any, if many, truly defined closers. He's out there, and I just think the White Sox are going to be significantly better than they were. I like the offense better. I'm big on kind of Shane Smith. I think just culturally, I think they're a lot better than they were to start the season. So for me, yeah, it's kind of piecemeal in it. I get why the prices are high because you really want one of those. What would you call a top 8 or 10?
Yeah, it's 8 or 10, give or take. Like Sir Anthony's right on the outs. Like we were talking about, Ryan and I started our pockets of ADP on Tuesday night, and that's ADP 50 through 100. And you get through basically, I think you stop at Iglesias. And so after ADP 100, it shows you how high they're going. After ADP 100, now you're talking, you got your Kenley Jansen's, you got your Sir Anthony's, you got your Santanas, you got your Palencias. Those are all coming right behind it. And it's just crazy.
You could strike gold on those.
Oh, 100%. I love Palencia. I guess skills wise, Jansen always it's boring is beautiful. Like he's gonna get you your saves if you trust the Detroit system. So and Santana's weirdly enough been serviceable. So like yes, to your point, you can. And I agree with your Dominguez take. I think the White Sox are better this year. So there's definitely something.
It's really tough. Those guys that we mentioned in the middle, that juicy center, those are guys I'm willing to stab on as an RP1 in a fab league, knowing that I could bridge, the dam if it springs a leak. But what if it goes wrong? And in particular, I like to have an eyeball on the next man up in that Hader draft. I should have known, it was my first draft, I should have known with Abreu's inflated price that I wasn't going to be able to come through with him. I did not. In the example of Jansen, a guy who I think is a capital C1 closer, I worry maybe about durability. I worry about the next man up in Detroit. There's a few ways that they could go, so I don't feel great about that situation. I've been doing the Dr. Dave afterwards, which, all the gags aside, my man is super sharp, and trying to get guys that have closed, maybe in more nebulous situations. So I find I'm a Jordan Romano drafter, right? Stevenson is slated, and God bless the fine people at Fangraphs and Jason Martinez. I think they do a wonderful job. But when you become a gold standard, people tend to rely on this, and it becomes like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Nobody knows what that bullpen is going to look like. But enough people stare at it, use that to make a decision, that ends up moving ADP. I'm not really pushing for Romano outside of, this guy has legitimately closed the door on a ton of MLB games. He's got what it takes. And if we think it was just injury and maybe a little bit of poor performance and he's healthy, I mean, he could be the closer for the Angels right out of the box. No, Stevenson is just starting to throw right now. Who ordained him the closer?
Yeah, Stevenson, everybody wants him to because it's funny when I did the Angels preview with Prepis, Stevenson's like the third or fourth highest paid player on the roster. That lets you talk about the Angels. So that's where I think people are saying, well, he's got to be the closer. They signed him. He got hurt. But to your point, I agree. He just threw his first bullpen on Tuesday, since his injury. First bullpen. They brought in Romano, and they even brought in Kirby Yates, who wasn't that.
That's another guy. Yeah.
So it's like, I still think they want it to be Stevenson. I'm not going to disagree with that, but I think there's a world on opening day that Romano or Yates are taking the ball in the ninth inning if that were the question. So
heck yeah, especially if Stevenson. I don't even know what his inning max looks like. Go ahead, I'm going to look it up right now.
Well, that's the other part. It's like you really don't know what he's got going on, but like you got that, you got like the A situation, Rockies, God forbid, if you want to go there. There's a handful of teams where the closers are still up in the air. You don't know where you're going there. So as TDK in the chat says, like it's all cheap and good plays in the DC. You take your chances, throw your darts, see what happens.
Yeah, he hasn't cracked 60 innings since before COVID. By the way, that was Robert Stevenson. And, again, last year was just 10 innings. It'd be very hard to confidently pencil him in for, 70 innings with 100 strikeouts or whatever. Yeah. So I think it's going to take, again, a lot of being very kind of malleable. I'm not great at speculating on closers, so even to maybe put another second bow on it, Bubba, is I'm usually taking 4 or 5 in a draft champions, but they're probably a little bit earlier than the crowd because I don't know these late end guys. And to me, I don't want to take 0 picks. Again, to my point about following every day, there are lots of starting pitchers that I think are going to get innings. Like, a Mitchell Parker is going to throw innings. He's going after pick 500. Like, that's a guy that's going to score points for you, opposed to, I don't know, random insert name here, RP7 on a team that we hope is going to get the ball. So I'm paying a little bit extra throughout. I guess that's what your point was in the beginning, is I'm letting the inflation hit, but maybe I'm backfilling it a little bit more. Just getting my 3, 4, 5 earlier, because, man, the opportunity cost of giving up a top 40 pick, is very tough for me. The hitters are still so great there. Average with power, which is very difficult nowadays. That's kind of the commodity I've been looking for.
100%. I go hitting heavy as much as possible. That's why this year's drafting is weird, because I was hoping at least with the Fab Leagues it would change. And like I said, so far it is not. And that's what makes it really challenging for me, because, heck, I tell the story on my show all the time that, like, last year I did an OC, a 12-team Fab League, and I got Freddie Peralta as my SP1 in round 9. That does not exist anymore. That is not an option. That is not possible. I had 8 hitters before that took place. You can't do that anymore if you want to try to survive in these leagues, unfortunately.
No, with the K volume and even whip maybe at a certain point, it's very hard to keep up with the Joneses when people have kind of, front-loaded their teams. And I don't think you need multiple aces, because I think there's been like a consolidating of rotations. Like this year, I probably like more 3s and 4s maybe than I have in the past. But that doesn't mean you don't need any 1s. Something, again, I want to remember for Underdog, a mistake I've made in the past, right? Loving the depth at pitching so much that I didn't have any front-end starters.
That is a great point. That's one thing we'll definitely talk about with the Underdog, because that is a strategy that will take place. We'll come back to catchers in a minute, because we're talking pitchers. So let's go to that. And I know you've been a lot of some of your recent Cork stats have been discussing kind of different pockets of pitching, because Sporer and company, they named it the Glob back in the day, and there's a lot of those. If you've done your research, anybody that's looked at the player pool enough, you have the big 3 up top. The bait that all you want. Then you have the next crew, and then you have another group. It's just there's sections of the draft. You're gonna have a bunch of them going off. So I guess what we'll start with is after the big 3. Like I'm talking, you got it goes Christopher Sanchez, Yamamoto, Logan Gilbert, Hunter Brown, Wu, Green, so on and so forth. Chris Sale, wherever you want to deem the line finished is up to you. It could be farther down the road than that. How are you approaching that next pocket? Like, or are you going and getting one of the top 3 arms? Because I usually don't. I get hitters, as you kind of mentioned, like you do earlier, it sounds like. So we're on the same page there. How do you approach that kind of next, quote unquote, not elite, but close to elite tier?
Yeah, as much as I like the guys at the very top, right? It's always tough as an analyst. I don't want Paul Skeens on my fantasy team. Of course I do. Of course I do. We all do. But it's the opportunity cost that 1v1 of those hitters are up top. And I think there are a lot of fantasy aces. I think all the guys you mentioned, I have all those guys in that kind of, maybe they're in like the 35 to 50 range with ADP. That's like Sale, Gilbert, Green, Hunter Brown, DeGrom, Wu. Those are probably all aces. Those are my ranks. I want the strikeouts, so normally Wu falls a little bit to the back end. And as much as I like Brown for volume, the swing and miss stuff is a little bit concerning. But again, he could make it up for you, because he's on the shortest list of guys that I'd bet on to go to 200 innings, right? There's very few of those guys. So he can get you there. The thing I think, Bubba, is if you keep kind of pushing the names down, now you could get into like the 70s, where like a guy like Peralta is. Fried, I think, could be an SP1. Joey Ryan, I mean, I'm a bench with Bubba vet here, man. Like, we know about the ball belly stuff.
Yeah.
Is anyone talking about us maybe getting an extra like 8 or 10 pitches per outing and not getting these 5-inning yoke jobs? Like that might happen. We might
Goes a
get.
long ways.
What if we get optimal pitcher usage out of Minnesota? Like Joey Ryan's always been really good. So I think I'm off the top 3. I love to get one of those next 5, but if not, I'll take 2 in the next 12 or 3 in the next 12 because, like you were mentioning before, when you wait on pitching, it's because you're building a foundational lineup with your hitters. So you might wait, get 6 hitters, and then triple tap, and that could look like maybe Joe Ryan, Yuri Perez, and Spencer Strider, or Nolan McLean. I'm naming guys that I really like. Man, I really like Chase Burns, Bubba, but man, I got to stop talking to Dave so much. It's getting me nervous, man.
Yeah,
you know, he's not wrong, though. Guys that have those injuries, but there's been rumors circulating. Should we spread a little bit? Let's throw some gunk on it. We'll do our best Zach impression. I'm hearing a lot of people that I trust also are saying that the Burns injury may have been more of a management thing. I'm not going to speak to any of it. I don't know.
There was whispers about that last year.
Yeah.
When him on the IL, which it made sense in the time. So that's why that one's a tough one to kind of decipher. Like Brian Wu, we know he's hurt. Like, he's got his forearm's hanging on for dear life.
He survived though, dude. I faded him because he survived because I didn't think he would make it.
Oh, I had 0 shares. I was fully off because I followed Dr. Dave. See, come on, Dave.
No,
I'm kidding. He's right.
He would tell you that's the exception to the rule. He's not wrong, I think.
Yeah, he's right way more than he's wrong. But I'm with you, and something I've talked about many times is I go hitting early, so I kind of miss out on those quote unquote elite pitchers, and I live in that Webb, Peralta, Luzardo, like that whole crew, and basically from 50 to 100. I'm a very big fan of getting 2 or 3 guys in that range. But
yep. Yeah, me too. I want to have the. Again, I hate even trying to predict injuries at this point. You know, DeGrom made all the starts. Christian McCaffrey touched the ball 400 times. What do we really know? Yeah. Bubba, what do we really know? You know,
that's the hardest part. Like a couple years ago, like Michael King is a reliever. What's he going to do? So it's like 180 innings. Like
good one. That was a good one. Now we've seen a lot of converted relievers tack on a 80 or 100 innings or whatever. Maybe that's less of an issue. The reason I say that is I was looking at Kyle Bradish, who was somebody that I really wasn't too in on. But then when I started doing my analysis, he really did pop. Something Ryan talks about all the time. Shout out, Bloomy, you're the man, Ryan. Is finishing the year healthy.
Yep.
You know? So this is my internal struggle, has been how do we define injuries? I've been saying if you finish healthy and the kind of velo and production was there, I had generally been considering those guys healthy. I'm now retraining a little bit, Bubba, for guys that have had those flexor strains, those throwing, maybe forearm strains, that we can show have been a precursor to the surgery. We don't know if it'll be start 1. Sometimes it's in start 30. But a guy like Bradish, especially with the team saying that they may limit those innings, he's the kind of guy I'm wary of drafting if I've waited, because I want to feel like I can definitely get 165, 170 in a best case, and I think you can get that from almost all the other guys, maybe except for Bradish. I have a hard time projecting him over 150.
Thank you. You've made my case for me with Kyle Bradish. That's been my preaching point. As I've said, I agree. His stuff is awesome. It's elite, some might say. It is great when he's on the mound. He looked phenomenal in his small sample last year. But when they're already flat out saying they let him limit his innings because they want him for the postseason, which makes 100% sense in the grand scheme of things, then yeah, because in his career, I think I was looking at it last night. He's only had one time in his career he's thrown like 160 innings. One time, 2023.
It's just it's a thing. It's like that. Like, you know, they say availability is an ability, right? But it's more, it's a muscle. Like just the whole repetition, being able to run the race and finish the race, right? There's a reason we don't talk about marathon runners in their 3-mile sections, right? That's not it. There's an element of distance to this. Getting 15 innings just isn't going to cut the mustard. Now, yeah, again, we'll probably talk about Bradish again later, because he gets a lot of hate in the Dinger Where now, okay, listen, if he's like your SP4 or 5, which is the case sometimes, and that's a different case altogether. But yeah, and especially in draft champions where you need him to get you bulk, I'm a little wary again of those guys that I feel have projectable like inning ceilings that are a little bit lower.
Well, to do my due diligence, because you mentioned Kyle Bradish, and Ryan would be angry if I didn't go here. You mentioned finishing the year strong. Bradish had the surgery. This player did not. Where are you at on Cole Reagans?
Okay, Cole Reagans would be a guy that I'm now kind of out on. Right, that's a guy that I'm really worried about.
His shoulders and all that. He didn't have the procedure. That's what I was wondering.
Yeah, I was actually going to bring up. It's funny. I end up shouting. I've been on the search, Bubba, for Frank Marisek. He's the person behind Pro Sports Transactions, which is like the absolute best website for injury lookups. I don't know if people are familiar. Hopefully you're not. And if anyone has not seen it, I just gave you maybe the best piece of advice you're going to get. Because not only do you get IL, you get any day-to-day missed with injuries with a description of the injury. So this is Reagan's 25. He was day-to-day with the groin in late April. Then he was 15. Oh, he returned in May, went on the IL with the same groin in May. Activated in June, strained rotator cuff left shoulder. This is the second week of June. Transferred to 60-day IL in July, and that was a wrapperoni. So, again, I didn't know Cole Reagan's history, and that was a pretty good... You get a really good synopsis of what he went through. Throwing arm, hard thrower, no surgery, no return, with the premium price, Bubba, right? I'm not saying never Cole Reagan's.
He made 3 starts through 15 innings.
It's just... Wait, he didn't come back. Wait, he came back?
Yeah, that's what I'm asking.
Activated. You know what? Shame on me. I didn't read the final line video. People could see me. I'm disciplining myself. He did return 9/17. Okay, so this is where I start pulling clumps out because mixed signals, right? Which is more important? I'm already admitting I'm making stuff up. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm an idiot, man. I don't know what I'm talking about. But I'm trying to build an objective base so at least I can be consistent, right? This is something that is good advice for people that begin trading or betting or DFS, because at least if you're consistent in your methodology, you could then kind of isolate variables to remove or adjust. And it will, over time, hopefully make you better. But I don't know. Was the velo good? Dr. Dave lectured me on this already. He said just because it was good doesn't mean the guy's healthy. Eno Saris, another kind of pillar of the industry, he begged to differ. So, it isn't objective, but I will say I am way more worried about guys that don't get the procedure. He's had TJ in the past?
Yep.
No. Oh, you know what? Could he have been one of the minor league TJ guys? I swear, I thought Reagan's had that.
I'm pretty sure I swear he's had TJ.
No, okay, but it's not on the pro list. But there has been ambiguity with TJs in the minor leagues because there's no... Dude, minor league, they don't tell you anything. So, no, he doesn't have any missed time in the pros. It was just a calf all the way back in 22. But, like, where the hell was he those other years? He had to have it.
Yeah, well, I'm going to mention this. So his last 3 starts, he threw 13 total innings. He had 1 5-inning start there. He gave 4 total runs for a 2.77 ERA with a 1.98 xFIP. But here's the kicker: he had a 46% K rate and a 37.5% K to walk in those 13 innings. Filthy.
Yeah, well, I'm popping open the hood right now, and I hadn't really taken a look. So Reagan, 4.67, 118, but all the indicators were just gaga for him last year, right? So, in fact, you'll be very hard-pressed to find anybody, like legit anybody, that has an expected ERA and a Sierra at 265 or below. He probably throws the 4-seamer a bit too much for me, but, the ball rate is there, the CSW north of 31, and that's with a first strike rate at 60. Man, he wins in the zone. It's really tempting. I try not to get too into the weeds with these type of guys because the only thing you're going to do is tempt yourself into drafting him because we know he's got the goods. But I'm telling myself that the price is too high. That's the story I'm telling myself.
The price is very high, 45 ADP over the last 7 days in OCs. Paul's in the chat saying he's had TJ twice. So keep that in mind.
Yeah, so I wonder if they were both. Again, I try to be very clear about about my sources, about my research, so I'm not misleading or misframing or omitting on purpose, which is just like lying. Yeah, but again, the minor leagues apparently have no responsibility to be transparent or tell us anything.
Nope.
By the way, so maybe they sent him down to do the surgeries, but I have no idea. But yeah, I'm totally worried. I'm sorry. I'm worried about the projectable ceiling again.
100%. I just wanted to bring it up just because it's the argument that many have had, but I wanted to kind of bring it full circle.
Who is he going next to? He's going next to studs, you know?
Oh, he's in the top tier. He's going with the Christopher Sanchez's of the world.
I'll tell you what, to tie in the first segment, if I don't have a closer at this point where he's going around 50, I got to get my first closer. 100%. You know, if I didn't get one, because then you really find yourself scrambling. You know, if you're lucky enough to have if a Chapman is still floating around, or I'd probably even go to like a Helsley at that point, or Iglesias, like you mentioned. Yeah, I think I'd rather have my RP1 than a starter I'm worried about.
Agreed. When you get deeper into the starting pitching pool, as we'll hit this one real quick, there's a lot of different ways to go about it. You mentioned you like some of those third and fourth starters here. How are you peppering the I guess the mid range starting pitching, because it gets really congested with a lot of, I guess, similar profiles.
Yeah, and I think if they're good, I think that's okay, right? I think that strengthens our argument to double or triple tap in that section, because we believe in the pitchers, right? We don't feel like we're necessarily reaching so much. I kind of mentioned a few of them, and those are the guys I'm going down with that ship, man. I think Yuri Perez has a case for a huge breakout in front of him. Just all the disciplinary stuff that we love. The 4.25 ERA easily kind of explained with a 65% left on base, and I'm not as worried about the fly ball rate, which I've been hearing people cite as an issue. The thing is, Yuri Perez has one of like the single best fastballs on the face of the earth. So when you are able to do that, you're switching eye level. He goes up at the eyes, up and above. He has like this ridiculous infield fly rate. So I don't want to talk about 50% fly ball without the 13 or 14% infield fly, depending on the provider. Yeah, he's got the goods. I think he could be an SP1. Now again, I don't want to wait for him to be my SP1, but yeah, I could see it. Again, I'd feel much better, right? We mentioned like Hunter Green or DeGrom kind of come off maybe as a discount. Maybe even Max Fried if you think you're going to be pairing him with lots of strikeouts. So I have no problem dipping in that whole thing. I think Strider has all the goods. I had covered him on the show, and he graded out, a lot better than I thought. Also, right, we want to have that patience with the return from injury. Man, Strider, dude, his stuff is so filthy. I mean, that slider curveball combination, legit just insane.
Gotta get that velo back up.
Now, counterpoint is we've been seeing more and more work in the industry, done some by myself. I have some on deck to do this season at The Athletic. I got to see if I can get all the data sets together. But, and also not just pure theory throwing spaghetti at the wall, Jacob deGrom using this in practice. The idea being, how do I do this succinctly? So, the less often a pitcher borders their maximum velocity, the quote-unquote safer it's going to be. So think of it in like a velocity band, and we want the widest velocity band possible. Justin Verlander is actually famous for this, dipping back for 98 in the seventh, and people are like, what? The broadcasters would legit lose their minds. Where was this all day? He doesn't go for it all the time, because whether or not he doesn't think he needs it all the time or worried about injury, that was a big thing. That DeGrom was pitching really close to his max all the time, which was whatever, 98 or 100 or whatever. And they were very vocal about dialing down the max velo. He can still go get it. So you're going to see average velos drop a little bit, I think, because pitchers are looking to have it lead to sustaining. And then one more thing for the real deep in the weeds guys like yourself. This is the Lance Lynn thing. You could tell we're doing this thing. Lance Lynn would talk about using different, not just different velocity fastballs, but different kind of shape fastballs, knowing that not only would it help him sustain as far as health, but that physical change in velocity could help trick hitters, right? Meaning, if they ID fastball, IDing a fastball that now you have to discern 95, 97, 99, because the pitcher can dial that back and forth, providing the release point and delivery speed are all the same. There's an argument that maybe max velo all the time is not the best thing. So in like 8 million words or less, I'm not too worried.
No, but I agree. Max velo is not the thing. Strider's fastball is extremely hittable because it was just lower than general last year. It felt like, but I think if he gets that back, that'll help a ton. Because even last year when the fastball was hittable, the off-speed stuff was still good. Like he was getting the outs with the curves, the sliders, as you mentioned, being elite. And to your point with Lance Lynn, love the man because he represents a slow pitch softball body on the mound. He had those like he threw like a four-seam, a two-seam, a cutter, and a sinker.
Correct. You remember?
Yeah. If all like what you're saying, if they can all tunnel the same way, it's filthy. I don't know if you've seen it yet, but it's all over Twitter. Pitching Ninja just put out the Paul Skeens is 4 different pitches from the same tunnel spot. I don't know how anybody hits this guy.
No, it's incredible. And in fact, Nino was talking about that also. That I think Lance has mentioned this. Tunneling, probably the most like effective niche to conquer, maybe outside of velocity, right?
Yep.
Because there are pitchers that have all this wacky kind of nasty stuff, but hitters are so good at picking up on differences in arm tilt and release point that they're able to identify it quickly. That when you're able to match all those things, and then the tunneling, dude, the pitch looks the same like a third of the way to the plate, but then ends up doing like this octopus thing where it could just branch out in any way. Yeah, I mean, Skeens is unbelievable.
Yeah, unbelievable stuff.
Hopefully they get him some wins this year, man, right?
That's what, and you mentioned the White Sox are getting better. Pirates offense, that line is the best I've seen in a long time on that team. Like it's
another dinger hit right there, Ozuna.
I can live with. Like it's pretty good. So
yeah, and there's big potential for the pitching, right? Everybody, we love Skeens, obviously. We all love Bubba. Everybody loves Bubba.
Yeah, who knows?
Ashcraft, right? Braxton Ashcraft.
Braxton Ashcraft.
Are we going to get Jared Jones? They said the ball's popping. I watched the video, but
he's coming back. I'd say
halfway.
They put him on the 60-day as a precautionary, I think, just to ramp him up. So I'm thinking early June we get Jared Jones back in town. He looks good still.
A little bit of Mitch Keller, never hurt no one.
No,
right?
Perfect as a 4 or a 5.
No kidding.
Either ace.
Like, I wish he was at Yankees 4 or 5.
Yeah,
for real
4 or 5. Like,
yes, yes. When they were trying to have him masquerade as an ace, that's a different story. Right? That was a different story. That dog don't hunt, as they say. That dog don't hunt. But yeah, no, he's to a shout out Spore, right? He's a perfectly cromulent 4. And roster resource has Jose Urquidy. I was going to say, Bubba, I don't know who the 5 is right now. And apparently it's Jose Urquidy.
Yeah, they just signed him. The 5 is their problem. I wish Mike Burrows was still there. That would have been something worth seeing. But Urquidy's just keeping the seat warm.
He's going to get some innings for you, Burrows.
Yeah. Yep.
Like if he's dropping in draft champions, that's exactly the kind of guy we want to be targeting.
Well, yeah, because that Astros rotation is full of who's not going to finish the season, basically.
Wait. Yeah. Hold on.
Burrows is on the Astros. He got traded to the Astros.
Oh, was Burrow go? Oh, my bad. I thought Burrows was with Pittsburgh. Oh, I got to work on my back.
He was. He got traded from Pittsburgh. The guy that might surprise people is you got Carmen Mlodzinski, who people want to see on the rotation in Pittsburgh. And then if they dip into the minors, they have Mr. Thomas Harrington and Hunter Barco. They have some options coming up there.
Oh man, Machinsky. You can also tell you're a daily guy if you know how to say that young man's name. Yep. Though I had the funniest stat on him last year. I remember it just used to kill us. Yeah. So I think he's only built for relief. He's like the time through the order anomaly. Have you ever seen this? So
yep.
Carmen Machinsky was the smash Nerfy, the no-run first inning guy. So this guy, first time through the order, Machinsky had a 1.69 ERA facing 107 batters. Bubba, second time through the order, it goes up to 8.84. Third time through the order, it goes up to 9.82. So once you've seen Carmen multiple times in the game, it hasn't gone well for him yet.
You'll be saying, where in the world is Carmen Sandiego?
Man, now I'm hung up on the Burrows thing. What did they get? Don't they? I thought we needed him. I like the Pirates.
They traded him to Houston. Houston needs pitching too.
What trade was that? God, I'm out of. How could you be so far out of the loop? All I do is stare at the stuff all day. I like get mad at myself.
It's all good. I'm trying to remember who it was for now because I've done a million of these and I just totally blanked on who it was. A multiplayer trade. I know that much for sure. But no need to fret about it.
Yeah, okay, you got me.
But yeah, no.
Jacob Melton, Anderson, Brito.
It was the three.
Oh, that was the Brandon Lau trade. Okay,
the Rays. Yeah, that's
yes.
What it was all. And then Jake Mangum style.
Yeah. Oh,
that's what it is.
Yeah. Oh, you definitely have to get props. That's a fantastic nickname. That's an 80 grade nickname right there.
I swear to God, if he starts every day in the outfield, there's not a shirt in Pittsburgh of Jake Mangum style there.
We're gonna love him too. Wasn't he good?
He runs wild and hits for average, a little bit of pop. Like he could be sneaky good.
Yeah, he was a fun DFS like min price guy.
Great.
Yeah. Listen, that's how you find the elite guys, right?
I tell people that all the time. I think we've even talked about it. Like I love DFS because it keeps me like for fab leagues, it helps me get in on those kind of early streams and whatnot. So
yes, you were first in with Jacob Marcy and Dale and Lyle, but that's how these guys started. They were kind of unknowns. You start to get massive production. The DFS crowd goes nuts because there's min price Dale and Lyle scoring 28 points every night or whatever. And now look, these guys have actually made their way into some kind of viability. I mean, Lyle in particular, I really like. But
100%. Let's talk catchers real quick here because it's my show and we talk catchers on bench.
Yes, we do.
But this is another one, so it's kind of similar to the pitching thing. So I want to get your thoughts on your early draft prep, early drafts you've been doing. Is catchers are quite inflated as well, but it's the deepest catchers have ever been at the same time. So it's kind of, I guess, where do you want to pick your poison? Do you prefer to leave a draft with one of the top, 8 or so guys where you got to pay for them? Are you cool sitting in the middle and taking some late darts with your catcher too?
Man, you brought up relievers, and I told you that was my first biggest weakness transferring to Roto. 2 catchers was an absolute shock to me. And if anyone out there I highly recommend NFBC. I think that the quality of gaming there is just fantastic. But do not try an IKB, the 2 catcher system. Because that was me. I'm so smart, blah, blah, blah. And I'm going to punt catcher. And, dude, give me, catcher 28 and 29, and I'll kind of figure out, no, you won't. No, you won't. Now, granted, I feel like every season, Bubba, I'll find one pretty good catcher in season. I will. 100%. But it's almost like relievers. I'm leaving with one guy I can hang my hat on, and then I'll kind of figure out the second one. Let's put some names on it. Up top, not to say give me the cheapest, but man, we love the Goose, bro. The Goose is loose. How could you not love it? This is eerily reminiscent of like a JT Realmuto from some years past. Maybe the average isn't as good, but hello, for all the people knocking the Goose Ramirez in his 231 BA, he had a 270 XBA, 270 and a 253 BABIP. You got to think those are going to kind of correct. He's got a good approach. You'd like to see maybe cut the chases a little bit, but the zone contact is really good. Lots of solid contact, and he pulls 43 pull, 16 air pull, something. Hat tip. I've been doing a lot of accolades today. Got to shout out John Anderson, right? The air pull stuff, really huge metric, right? Pulling matters, like barrels matter, all that stuff, but we want to combine them, right? Who is actually elevating those pulled balls? Who's actually elevating the barrels? Goose is one of them. Dude, I don't understand why he's going as late as he is. Frankly, when you look at the projections and stuff, I've been doing Bat X 600, so I've been taking Derek Hardy's and smoothing them out, right, akin to the Steamer 600. Ramirez's Bat X 600 is 248, 70 and 75 runs and ribs, 20 and 10 homers and steals. And I would argue all of those could be a little bit low because he has a chance to DH every day when he does a catch.
100%. And that's what it is. It's like I try to get one of the top 8, to your point, and then I love my Kyle Teals of the world and some of those mid-tier ones.
That's a good one.
But like you said, is especially in 12s, if 15s, you'll still get them. 12s, you can almost stream your catcher too if you need to. There's going to be options on the waiver wire. Like you said, and 15s, you'll still have options. You also have more people fighting for them. In a 12, you're going to have throughout the entire season. There's going to be changes.
Yeah, hell, here, check this out, because this is a good allusion to what I was mentioning before. Sal Perez went absolutely bananas last year, and I wrote him off. Listen, I take my L for love when I need to. I was kind of like, oh, he's old and, all this stuff or whatever, degrading. I was looking at who could lead the league in home runs, right? And Sal Perez, by the way, is 150 to 1. But when you pop the hood on Perez, there's another guy, by the way, 236 batting average, Bubba. He had a 279 XBA. If Sal Perez bat closer to that, let's say he bat 268 or something like that, would we be talking about it in the same light? 100 ribbies and 100 ribs and 30 bombs, a 543 X slug, nearly 100 points higher than the actual slug. The approach, again, he chases love, which is funny. He's like so aggressive. But again, all the underpinning power stuff, it's legit all you could ask for, top of the board elite. 46 fly ball, 48 pull, 23 air pull, which is ridiculous. 46 hard hit, a 437 X Wobacon, and again, let's shout out Bloomy one more time, who I called Brian. I almost called him Brian Loomfield. So, Brian, if you're ever looking for an alias, maybe that'll make a good alias, Brian Loomfield. Brian Loomfield is my arch nemesis in the FSWA contest every year. But hold on, check this out. Something that Ryan talks about a lot, which is very, very, very important. It really is. And it's looking at home runs and barrels, and though it's not a true conversion rate, understanding your home run to barrel rate, right? This is one of the easier metrics to understand that is not talked about enough as far as projection, and even if we're talking about backward expectation. Sal Perez had 70 barrels. He had 70 barrels. The average conversion rate is probably like 56. The way that he pulls those kind of guys is probably like 65. He converted 30 home runs. There is a world, Bubba, where you legit put the legit exact same inputs into La Máquina. He comes out with 45 homers, a 270 average last year, and like a ridiculous season, and he's like a top like 60 pick or something, or like 50 pick. He's a last round pick or second to last round pick in the Dinger. He should be on everybody's roster that's listening.
Remember when he hit 48 home runs in 2021? Maybe not a fluke. 2021, 74.
Dude, I didn't necessarily buy it. We didn't have all the air pulse stuff. I wasn't able to validate it.
Apparently, he had 74 barrels. He had 4 more barrels that year, but he actually got the home runs.
But
I'm supporting your cause. Is what I'm saying.
But I'm saying you knock yourself too often for not being able to get this stuff and digest it and use it again. There's your perfect real-world example of how that happens. And again, it's a little bit early to be taking losses. I'm not, it's not over. But man, I just can't believe I did not have Perez. Especially, I could see where maybe he hurt you a little bit in Roto, but like point leagues and best ball, you need to be priority. You should be coming down with him in pretty much every single league. I mean, those are insane elite power metrics from guys that you're drafting, in the top 36 overall.
Agreed. Last major question I have for you here on the season-long stuff is just because we were talking pitchers' injuries, and then there's been so many other injuries, like Pablo Lopez's elbow's blown up, Hurston Waldrop, they just announced going under the knife, so on and so forth. Spencer Schwellenbach went under the knife today, so it's just a February 18th. It's we're already having all this fun stuff and things. Handmade injuries, it's like the new oblique. So how are you handling these guys? Because it's really interesting. We've heard there's different types of procedures now, which is already fun. Corbin Carroll apparently might not even miss time. Lindor thinks he'll be back. Holiday week 2. Like, there's so many moving goalposts here. How do you kind of approach these guys as you're going to keep ramping up your draft season?
Well, I'm either really, really smart or really, really stupid, and it's evidenced in that I'm never getting them right now. I want to be very clear. I pushed Corbin Carroll probably to like mid-second. I pushed Lindor probably. He's got to be behind Zach Neto for me now. Maybe he's at like 35 or like 40 or something, but I'm never getting them. So like I'm saying, I'm either smart because I'm being prudent and dinging them a little bit, or I'm stupid because I'm overreacting and should be taking, any discount, right? Meaning getting Carroll at 15 is a ridiculous discount. Getting him at 12 is a ridiculous discount. I'm worried. I've been trying to validate this. I've been having trouble finding the hard data, Bubba. But from what I understand, we do get an objective, quantifiable power sap. Now, I thought, again, I hate using anecdotal stuff. I thought Olsen had it. Didn't Olsen have it before a season? And he had like he had a monster season, right? He had it that year when Oakland played Seattle in Japan. I feel like I remember that. Yep. So I don't know. I'm banging Carroll around. I'm banging Lindor. Now this will be the one time, dude, that I care about home runs in the spring. If they can show that they're legit ripping it, because that's my concern. So if you show me the skill is not gone. But man, if Carroll is not pulling elevated balls and barreling in the spring, I'm going to be getting more concerned, not less.
Yeah, it'll be interesting because, like you mentioned, the Olsen, and we saw a few other people have put articles out there. Ryan, I think, referenced, I want to say it was a USA Today or some scientific journal article he found, of course, because that's what Ryan does. And it basically said it's almost, I want to say it's almost like 50-50, but they're saying there's after a little bit of time, it's almost like they're back to normal. I'll believe it when I see it.
I mean, listen, technology is fantastic, right?
Every case is going to be different.
Yeah.
So
and it's not the Astros, thankfully.
I guess the biggest thing is do you buy the dip is what it comes down to. And
it's not getting there apparently enough for me. I don't, and I hate getting swayed by the market, right? I want to know what I have to pay for the recipe before I walk into the store. And if the store goes in and the prices are too expensive, I don't want to say, I suddenly need to pay for it, because do you need Corbin Carroll to win? You don't need any player to win. And that was proven with the low hit rate on those Judge teams when he had that ridiculous season, whatever it was, 2 or 3 years ago. His teams didn't even win. When, like in fantasy football, if you have that pick, you win blind. You don't even have to have waivers done. True.
I guess I have one more question for you. Just for someone that's done a handful of DCs or NFBC 50s right now, draft and hold type drafts, is there any other major takeaways you've noticed? Because I've been drafting since October because I'm a degenerate, and I'm done with draft and hold season now. I'm moving on, but you're ramping up. So you've noticed that stands out to you?
It would be crazy relief pricing. I think that's it. I actually I thought the catcher pricing was fair. I have a habit of waiting a little bit too long, but I have been getting goose because I'm prioritizing them, and then finding, I don't know, I love the Herrera price. I'm not certain he's going to come out of the box catching. I think in DCs, he's going to be a catcher, and to be able to add him as a catcher midseason could be a pretty big weekly boost. I like your guy Teal, and I like Carlos Narvaez. I think pairing him with Connor Wong, who also has shown us a little bit with the stick on a good offense, makes like a good pair, and that's kind of how I deal with catching. I find I'm a little different than the market here, because the more podcast and stuff I read and listen to, it's outfield depth, outfield depth, outfield depth. I don't feel that way. Now, yeah, there's one or two little oasis here or there that I'm into, but not enough to build a 5 outfield. I was talking about 5 outfield in 3 outfield formats, standard 12 team. You don't need to have an outfield in the first 2 rounds, but that's something I'm almost pushing. Like, I want an outfielder in the first 3 rounds for sure in these deeper leagues, or 2 through 5 or 6, 3 through 8 or 9, because I see a lot of flawed profiles. I see a lot of potential platoons. So outfield, and also something and I can't remember if you were talking to Ryan or Brian about it, but one of you guys was talking about shortstops, how it's both shallow and deep.
Yes.
There are a lot of players who are really good. However, they go very fast, right? So that's another one I'd say. That's one of the big ones. Is I never used to be like, I need a shortstop. Bubba, I need a shortstop.
Yeah, you need one early.
I feel like there are people who are hip to this, and some of them are grabbing 2 of those. Like, I think I wrote about it. I think it was 13, because I remember calling it a baker's dozen. So let's say there's even 12 to 14 shortstop that we really think could make an impact. If you're in a 15-team league, automatically, we don't need that many fingers to know 14 less than 15 aren't enough for everybody. And then if people start double tapping, there's like a desperation that I feel set in. And you don't want that with a premium position for shortstop. So I'm prioritizing shortstop. I'm prioritizing, outfield. And 2B is garbage also. But is it possible second base is so trash that I don't even care?
That's I think what a lot. I think it comes down to is we realize the power of the shortstop, power of getting outfielders, power of getting pitching. That we just say, okay, second base, you're the redheaded stepchild. You're over there. We'll get to you in a minute. Is what it comes down to as you're going through the draft.
Yeah, like I'll roll the dice
outside
at
of,
Matt McLean, right, or something. I don't know. I'll figure it
outside
out.
of, like 2 or 3 guys, maybe near the top. They're almost all together at the same area of the draft. You're just like, okay, we're cool doing that. And to your outfield point, I do want to mention, I agree with you because if you want 5 starting outfielders,
Yep.
you need to get them like before pick 200 because then we call it platoonsville comes into play. And there's good ones, don't get me wrong, but it does get a little murky for you.
Yeah, I was kind of bummed. I just got sniped on Otto Lopez. Right? How do you know you're deep into drafting weeds, Bubba? It would be getting. I mean, you're like, I got sniped on Otto Lopez. I picked 240. How could you do this to me? But that's what the landscape is for me. If you can get a guy that could just hit for average, score a couple runs, give you double homer steals, I think you're in pretty good shape. You'll look to fix it in season. There just doesn't feel like that. Have or have nots. It's almost like everybody feels like a have not. Yep. So I'll kind of figure it out. And, a couple of these guys are probably end up good. I mentioned McLean. McLean is a pretty skilled player. He could end up being good. I've always thought Gleyber Torres kind of gets maybe punished for never fulfilling the prophecy we thought he might. But everyday player, and again, I think he's pretty good. He's not going to, I don't think he's going to kill you. I used to be a Luis Garcia stan, but the platoon stuff is a heartbreaker. You get into these leagues, especially when you can't swap twice a week. The guy's sitting for a third time during a week. Listen, I get it if you're going to sit them against tough lefties to create natural rest. To me, that's optimal management. But if you're facing 3 lefties in a row, he should be playing for the Nats, not sitting for a half a week.
I agree. And the bus driver, Otto Lopez, is one of my favorite targets.
Just mentioned it. I got sniped. I could just type on Otto Lopez.
Hey, pull up your Underdog. We'll enter a room to get that party started while we start talking.
Hold on. You're going to apologize to me live on air right now. We do not get ready around here. We stay ready as if my Underdog window closed.
My bad. So
as if it ever closed. You look here, I was in drafting mode right now.
You probably are.
Dude, that's how I rock. I think. Man, it's funny. All right, this is perfect. We'll get into a little Underdog because the way the market moves is incredible. Are you jumping in now?
Well, the count of 3. We'll hit the button.
Yeah.
Okay. 1, 2, 3, go.
Yep. Okay, let's get it.
Let's hope we're in the same one.
All right, I got 5 people. It says.
Yep. Waiting on 5.
I don't have an out. I can hang and do this draft. I can hang.
No, we're good.
But if 5 is too long for you, we could cut it also. That's up to you.
I just wanted to get this going, and then we'll start talking strategy while we're doing that.
Yeah.
And I'll share the board once we get rocking and rolling here.
Yeah, I've done a million of these things, man. I've done a legit. You bit your tongue on the 100. I just crossed 100 Underdog drafts already.
I'm trying to.
Also, something else that you and I were talking about.
We're waiting.
Fill some air. Yeah. For people that maybe haven't moved on over. And I know sometimes it can be intimidating to go into these contests against players you perceive are max entering. They have a lot like smaller tournaments at smaller risks, which I think are great for all the beginners. I think I've been encouraging all my listenership. They had one that was $5 to enter, 5 maximum entries with like $3,000 up top. Hey man, what's better than that? It's all the drafting with none of the management. Like if you've got kids, and especially if you do in-season daily stuff like we do, it can be very difficult for me to manage a dozen leagues. In fact, I personally can't do it efficiently. I like higher stakes leagues that I can sink my teeth into.
Yep, totally agree with you there. While we're waiting for this to fill, 3 spots left, why don't we talk a little Underdog strategy, I guess, since you've done over 100 of these already, and that's no joke, folks. He is all over the Underdog streets, and you guys.
I want to win the dinger, bad.
Well, what content are you providing over at your Substack for?
Well, yeah, that is everything you could do for Underdog, which I think really kind of takes the nuanced touch of somebody who you could tell is playing all the time, because the ranks have to be changed constantly. I was telling you off air beforehand, yesterday was the first time I was in a draft where Spencer Schwellenbach and Santander didn't get drafted. So I'm doing I have live streams. Those are all free on the podcast feed, the Cork Stats podcast feed. And again, you get everything on Twitter. But I have color-coded ranks that you could just upload to CSV. I have it formatted to upload. And, I mean, you could use mine and then ship them on site. You could take mine, make a copy, ship them on your own, and upload them. But regardless of what you think of me, at the very least, I'm shifting all the zeros out. One of the more interesting things about Underdog, I'm not sure if you've noticed this, but not everyone does, the player pool for that site. Okay, so the player pool for Underdog, which is a 12-team draft, 20 rounds, 240 players, is deeper than the NFBC player site, threefold. The Underdog player pool is almost 4,000 players. Almost 4,000. And unless you have sifted through all of it, you're going to miss on guys that you probably like, because it's just human nature to draft to ADP, right? We see the site, we see the list, we see the names, but you may not realize that there are guys absolutely buried that you're into. And I think that leads into another point, Bubba, where I think some of my content shines is I'm aiming to really be unique this year, to not follow the pack. I have my own ranks, I have my own projections, and gosh darn it, I'm sticking with them. And I've noticed a true, yes, my ranks and the site ranks are going to be close up top. We all think the best pitchers are the best. But there's a point at round 12 or 13 where there's just a total disconnect, where I'm not drafting any of those guys. I'm only drafting guys that are off the board. And again, I'm either going to come out looking really smart or, really stupid. Unfortunately, you mentioned Waldrop. I was huge on. He was going undrafted. Cade Horton was going mostly undrafted. Robbie Snelling is going undrafted. The pair of Guardians are going undrafted. If you want to pay, Joey Cantillo, legit undrafted. Parker Messick is kind of getting drafted. Our draft's about to start. Let's go. Yep. Because I have him in my ranks. But think about those names. That might be a really cool late pitcher plan on its own. The two Guardians and Robbie Snelling, where now maybe you made sure to get an ace or two or three where you could wait on pitching. Because I think that's the real strategy of it is you need to balance the triple beam balance, right? If you start dumping your eggs into the outfielders early, you don't want 7 or 8 outfielders. You've got to cut it at 6 and stop drafting them so early. You have to draft as if you're right, because there are some monster teams, real powerhouses.
Hey, real quick, so I got the 3rd pick in this draft. You got the 6th pick. Our buddy Dark Sheep is in there with the 11th pick in this
Matty draft. Boy.
Yeah, I'm one of the few. I'm one of the 2 without a badge as usual. I wear that proudly on this. So let's start talking some positional stuff here.
Yeah.
Outfield's the strategy. Outfield goes early. Outfield goes early. That's how it's always been. That's the same this year for obvious reasons. And real quick, you mentioned your projections. I always throw a plug to Bubba and the Bloom. Ryan puts together a projection aggregator by using a bunch of the free projections out there, and there's an upload on the. I just took Juan Soto with number 1 with my pick, but yeah, I upload those.
Bloomy's really upped his game, huh?
Yeah, I use our rankings for mine, like you use yours. It does help a lot because it changes things for people that just kind of go down the standard Underdog list.
Oh, heck yeah. Although I wonder if you noticed the same thing, and this is probably, I'm not saying it's necessarily a warning, but it is something to be aware of. When you do your own ranks, if, let's say, you're 15 or 20 picks ahead on somebody, which is totally perfectly normal, it really is, you might not necessarily want to slot them there because you're going to end up with 100% rostership.
Yep. Oh, that makes sense.
Right. To me, that's an issue I had in years past, having my own ranks, is all my teams were kind of coming out the same because I have my own ranks and they're different. So,
well, the good thing I like about is as projections continue to update, the rankings change due to the aggregator. At least, not up top, the elites of the elites, but that's that middle to end. Like you talked about taking your chances late. That's where things will start to shift when playing time and projections change. You'll start to see that. So we're talking outfield goes early. Out of the first 9 picks, 8 of them were outfielders. We got a Bobby Wood in there at pick 5. What are your thoughts on some early infielders getting snuck in there? Because, yes, they're elite, and I think it's an interesting conversation because they can earn the same amount of points as outfielders, but I guess it's, do you trust yourself finding outfielders later, John?
Yeah, well, I think you just brought up legit the 2 biggest points in the game right now are, I think it begins with the late outfield plan, because structurally, there just aren't enough of them. I mean, the math is pretty simple. That was the article I just wrote, and it'll go into your point with the outfielders. 30 teams, 3 outfielders is 90. And are they really 90? Not when you consider Platoonsville, right? So it's not a true 90 outfielders. Infielders. While technically there are 5 positions, I like to count 4 positions. And then I also counted 10 catchers that are viable in the format. So 120 infielders plus 10 is 130. So right off the bat, there's a huge just difference in supply. And pitchers, 5 starters, 30 teams, $1.50, except teams have 6 starters plus prospects. So there's actually a tremendously deep pool, right? To kind of set the table on the 3 positional bins and how the supply works out. So the push for outfielders makes sense. It is an objectively good idea because you mentioned markets. Okay. Drafting an outfielder in the first round is a premium by any definition. However, it is fair market value. So it's okay to pay a premium when it is the fair market value. Where people have gotten in trouble in the past drafting these things, AC, is they would see people like me going outfield. They felt behind in catch-up mode, and then were drafting outfielders that just didn't pay the opportunity cost. They were the platoon guys. They were the 4th outfielders or bad 3rd outfielders. They were getting drafted as starters, leaving us the opportunity to draft awesome infielders. This has been the shift. Now, I wrote in detail about this. That was the article you mentioned. So I give you a little bit of the milk for free. But that's been it, is as we've now had a shift where the markets are waking up, the public is waking up, people are getting away from outfield. I mean, dude, they would be on any given draft, 8 of the 12 teams might have started with 4 outfielders. You tap the whole pool. The good guys are gone. Now you're obviously overpaying. And it was actually creating really great teams for us unless you were doing what I mentioned before, which was then overloading. So for the people like me that were going outfield in the first 4 rounds, which is prudent, we were then making the mistake of taking a 5th, 6th, maybe 7th one too early. The correct pivot that's happening is to the early infielder that you mentioned before. So again, in 25 million words or less, where I would never, ever have an outfielder in the first 2 rounds. Legit never. Probably 0%. Now, I think you need one in the first. I don't want to call it 2 rounds. I want to call it 3 rounds because it depends. Like ours, some pitching is going a little bit early, so maybe a really good infielder is going to fall to me. But right now in this 3rd pick, I'm taking an infielder. I almost don't care who the outfielders are because I'm finding it short, man. I don't have the firepower to keep up with these teams that have. Jose Ramirez could put up 1,700 points this year in his format. Like a legit elite player. You can't just hand wave all the infielders. I was doing it because they were falling into round 8. It's not the case anymore.
Yep. No, I get it. Like we saw the big 3 pitchers. There's like Kurtz, Alonso, Raleigh right after him. I went with the 3rd outfielder to go against the grain. For your against the grain, I mean, but there's lots of ways to obviously go about this.
Oh, heck yeah.
And I agree. Like, I do like taking infielders early if it fits the mold. It's just where I was. I'm like, I don't see an infielder I'd like to take there. But what are your thoughts on the pitchers going early? Because we just saw the big 3 go. We didn't really, we kind of glossed over because we hope most people know the formats. You've covered them. Me and Ryan covered them. Sheep covers them on the sheep seats. There's tons of great content out there with the sheep seats and stacking dingers. Like tons of great content all over the place. Spencer Thurman, so on and so forth. But we talk about, you mentioned the outfielders. Don't forget about the infielders because there are guys that give you the return. The elite 3 starting pitchers go, but then there's a drop off like we kind of talked about in season long. But it's 20-man roster. You need at least 3 infielders, 3 outfielders, and a utility for the week to score. You need at least 3 pitchers. How are you approaching starting pitching in that long explanation there?
Yeah, well, I mean, I started laying out the volume so you could kind of tell that I'm leaning towards waiting. I mean, I'm going to go against what I had just said. I have to go with an outfielder because I have Duran.
The infielders aren't that great right now.
Yeah, which is telling me, man, maybe I got to start considering the first round infielders, or the second round infielders.
At elite tier, it's almost like talking shortstops in season long.
Yes.
Tier, and then it dropped enough where it's like, okay, I can wait a little longer. Yeah,
I mean, I know already I'm not going to feel great about my infield 1 already. I mean, I'm the guy that's been coming down with you get, maybe it's Ketel Marte, right? Maybe it's like Freeman, Betts, Machado. I don't feel great about those guys in my infield one. The more of these drafts I do, the less comfortable I feel with those guys. They feel like strong infield twos more than really great infield ones that are going to keep up with the best guys. For anybody that isn't looking at the board, I went Schwarber, James Wood, and Jaron Duran. And, I really wish that I had taken either Raleigh, Alonso, or Kurtz in that second pick and let the next outfielder come to me, because that's just been what's really, really kind of searing on the front of my brain is when you play this game and you check the weekly scoring and you see who's in there. Dude, it's a lot of the same guys. Bobby Witt is a scoring player all the time. He is awesome. The person that drafts Bobby Witt doesn't necessarily care about infielder 4, 5, 6, 7. There's a ton of weeks they don't ever get there. So when you wait until round 4 or 5 to grab your first infielder, those players become a lot more important. And I'm not confident in those players right now. I'm doing a million of these drafts. I don't love them. Yeah, we'll get to some names that could be cool, that might give us some scoring weeks, maybe tear it up for a month or two. But they're not guys that I'm willing to set my watch by. And I mean, dude, Cal Raleigh in the third round of a 12-team point league feels like we're punishing this guy. Why isn't he going in the first or the second round? So I think that's where I'm infielders. I gotta prioritize them a little bit more.
Yeah, it's why I wanted to discuss it, though, because it just seems like there's the stigma of you have to go outfielders. But it's good watching this draft because your team, my team, Clip fans, and Sheep, we all had 3 outfielders in the first 4. Sheep has gone 4 now. But then we had 2 teams, Hollywood and Baranda, and team 1 had 2 infielders, 1 outfielder. So they went opposite. Yep. We had Houston went an infielder, an outfielder, a pitcher, which is, not the norm, quote unquote, around here. You just got your first infield and Ketel Marte, and a 4th round Marte is totally doable. Real quick, I also wanted to mention, we talked about the handmade guys. Carroll run on the turn in the first pick of round 2. He's usually a mid-round 1 pick. And then Lindor dropped down to 3.8. So that's a definite drop off for Lindor. But again, if they don't miss too much time in a best ball format, that could be pretty sweet.
Yeah, it's funny to see the way these prices change, and again, how the meta changes. I don't want to be stubborn. Again, I laid out an objective case for prioritizing outfielders. That doesn't mean it should come at the sacrifice of what I truly believe you're identified as an elite tier that can separate itself. If you're familiar with the scoring system, the very best guys, I'd call it like 16, 1,700 points. They could run up to 1,900, 2,000. That's like Ohtani and Judge. The baseline for a really good season, Bob, is probably 1,150 to 1,250. Those are like your really strong seasons. Yep. But that's where a lot of the guys top out. And once you're in the 4th round, that's where the top end is. Listen, Mookie Betts, chances are, best point seasons are behind him. Yep. Now he might even get bumped down in the order with Tuck moving in. And the counting stats and plate appearances subsequently could take a ding. Where you don't really want Betts as your infielder 1. It's just not that, because there are guys scoring 30% more at the same position. And then, like I said, the way it affects the downstream draft, I really want an elite guy. To me, Ketel Marte is like the border. I'm like rolling my eyes if anybody can't see. But that's how I feel about that whole 4th round of our draft. Bubba, Freeman, Marte, Harper, and Betts. I'm like very meh. I really am. I'm very meh on the whole thing.
When it comes to pitching, obviously it's the points like hitters. OBP actually goes a long way in helping. So some players get boosted up. If people are wondering why, like I do like Brandon Nimmo in this format. The dude gets on base like a freaking machine. He's going to lead off. He's going to score runs. It's points. It's
ding, ding, ding.
Machine. Points. Pitching wise, quality starts goes a long ways. Like I was debating between Christopher Sanchez and Logan Webb. Tremendous Christopher Sanchez fan here. I could have totally screwed up doing that. Logan Webb is just an innings-eating monster, which in this format, to me, if I waited this long for an SP1, I want that base when I'm drafting it. Again, could be totally off the walls, could be too safe of a pick. I'll take my chances later, but just explaining to people when you're seeing certain pitchers maybe get above others, certain hitters above others, this is 100% the scoring format. This is why I think, not what I want to speak for John, but when he mentioned earlier, like, eventually gets to a point where he starts doing more season-long drafts and best ball gets kind of forgotten because you do have to be able to trick your brain back and forth when doing these drafts.
Yeah, 100%. There's so much back and forth telling you guys who you like and who you don't like, which is funny. Speaking of which, Austin Riley, a guy I'm not as crazy about in Roto. Maybe I like more in point leagues where, again, you have to draft as if it's right. And if the Riley pick hits, what does a Riley pick that hits look like? It looks like the guy from 2023 who put up a 1,700 point season. I think he had back-to-back 1650s, if I'm not mistaken. That's a first-round pick. That's a second-round pick. If you can get that from the 5-hole, though, those are the things that are going to win it for you. You mentioned something I wanted to bring up because as you draft, I think something else I've done more this year is pay attention to what other people are doing. You mentioned Sheep in the room. Again, you should be following him, of course. They do really great content.
Christopher Sanchez. We have almost the same. That's funny. Sorry.
Build. His 4 outfielder plan, if I had to guess, he's going to go into like a stack plan. Because I've seen, it's not to say he's going to do this, but I've seen people do this. When I saw people just ignore infielders altogether, and I'm going, wow, I wonder if they're stepping into the same trap that I think I'm becoming aware of, that was happening last year. And then when you look back, you'll see that they just stack everything at the end. And they may not even be the sexiest players, but that's also another pathway to being unique, right? Something I mentioned before. So let's take a look. He's got Brett Rooker. So, I don't know, maybe he's going to end up with like a Jacob Wilson, or maybe he's going to, I don't know if you could go with like Geloff there. Maybe the A's are not the best example.
You're on the clock, by the way.
Yeah. Let's see. Okay. Man, it gets a little hairy for me again. I'm kind of going to play for the upside. I'm going with Twin Stowers as my 4th outfielder in spots when I've waited. So, hold on. Churio. I've seen people that take Churio, look to pair with, of course, Slick Willie, Big Willie Contreras, but then also maybe grab Andrew Vaughn at the end. Yep. Andrew Vaughn probably has like a 1% draft rate. Too. Well, that's, man, his age really terrifies me, but the fact that they moved him to pure DH, yep. I know DVR was talking about this, and he's a big Brewer guy, was starting to sell me on it a little bit, because I think that helps, and I'm sure he's a great athlete. Man, yeah, maybe I'm sleeping on Christian Yelich a little bit.
Yeah, a question for you, because the way you're building here, you got 4 outfielders, 2 infielders. I'm imagining pitching's coming sooner than later, but who knows? You mentioned stacking though, so you kind of mentioned it with Sheep's build. Are you a pro stacker, a no stacker? It just depends on the day. Like some think you have to stack to win these things. I don't think you do. It's such a long season trying to predict when a team gets hot. It's nuts, but I see also the appeal to stacking, so I'm not against it. I will end up stacking from time to time. How do you approach that? Is that a philosophy of yours?
Yeah, I don't want to call it incidental, because I think there are players and prices that make a lot of sense. So, like, I'm the high man on Wyatt Langford this year, right? That's my guy all the way. I think you could get a monster season from him between the power, the pull power, plus the contact profile. I think he could go nuts. When I get Wyatt Langford, I'm making sure to come down with who you just mentioned, Brandon Nimmo, because I think that is a symbiotic pair, right? If Langford is going to go nuts and get you the counting stats that you're dreaming on, Nimmo is very likely setting the table in a lot of those scenarios. In probably a draft like this one, this is where I use it the most, is to differentiate my background picks, because like I was mentioning before, when you do your own ranks, you got to be careful to not come up with the same exact team all the time. That particularly can happen with your Underdog ranks outside of pick 225. Everybody's going to be different. So I have Kyle Stowers. I'm probably going to make sure to come down with Ramirez in round 19 or 20. I don't know if I'm necessarily prioritizing the Goose the way I am in Roto, but he had a 1,000-point season last year for a young kid and a catcher with potential growth on a more of an ascendant offense. There's a case maybe Ramirez should be going in every draft. So I'm going to, like I said, I kind of piece it together depending on the team. I think it answers questions. Unless it's the Rockies, that's like my very late stack that No one seems to be interested in. Nobody wants the Rockies. Nobody wants to hit in cores this year, Bubba, because you could get Goodman, Tovar, Beck in basically every draft outside of pick like 140 or 50. No one's really interested. I don't know. I guess they're flawed, but
Well, I hate to break it to you, but I've done only a handful, and I have stacks of Rockies in at least half of my drafs.
yeah, I think you should. I think you're.
I'm fully with you because they're what the kids in the street call free 99 in drafts, like you mentioned with their ADPs. They don't.
Now hold on, you're asking me the question, so I'm going to put you on the hot seat. What do you make of the darn outfield? I've been drafting Willie Castro because he's an outfielder in Underdog. I don't think he's going to play the outfield, obviously.
No, he's not.
I think Beck plays. I don't, but I'm worried. Like, I'm not drafting Moniak. McCarthy's out there. Do you have a stand on there?
I love Beck. I think Beck's a poor man's Doyle. He could be better than Doyle. I like Doyle and Beck. I think they play a ton. Moniak's a platoon, but he's also a home road platoon and a lefty righty platoon, which is a double platoon, which is not great. Like he's going to have great weeks. So again, in a Rocky stack, if you want to go deep Rocky stack, I could see the world where it could be quite appealing. But yeah, I think the outfield Beck and Doyle are the ones I really feel comfortable with there. In Underdog, I love getting Castro as a late outfielder because no one else drafts him, but he's not playing outfield. To your point,
yeah. Which we don't care about. I've just been worried about. I forgot about Doyle. I think Doyle plays.
Yeah.
So I think Doyle rules.
I'm with you. 100%.
So are you touching Moniak? You think Moniak platoon? So yeah, you really don't want a platoon in this format. You want guys that are going to security at bats.
Yeah, like if you want a platoon, you at least want it so they are still valuable on home and road for the platoon. Like Moniak, both aspects of it, which made it very tricky.
Yeah, see, I did a little real-time pairing right there. Like, give an example. I have Michael Garcia over CJ Abrams in a vacuum. But since this is one of the teams, I didn't get Bobby Witt and I didn't get Pasquantino, who I both obviously love. I went with CJ Abrams because I have James Wood. So I just kind of make these little 1v1s in rankings to help diversify while trying to optimize stacks. Again, from what I understand, the math on that is also pretty clear in DFS, right? When teams go, they kind of go together, the rising tide lifting all the ships.
100%. So I appreciate you leaving Michael Garcia for me because I'm a huge fan, and to have him fall at pick 94 to me felt pretty
I'm with you on him, by the way. You were one of the people that really got me to take that second look. And I think he's going entirely too late. And third base, we were talking about Roto. Third base is kind of a disaster also. If you don't get anything at the top, Garcia is like the guy to go after because I think there's another level. And I think that team altogether also is about to get a huge boost. Not to mention moving in the fences.
Moving in the fences will help. His approach is good, and the Royals are much better to all of your
Agreed.
points. I agree with there. So, yeah, zero qualms about him. Like Bryce Terang sitting here, he's a guy I never drafted in Roto, but I could see weirdness in a best ball format. Don't really want to.
No, he's a good player, but doesn't he feel like he's a perfect name of a player that I was trying to think of earlier when I was making my point about needing a really great infield one.
Yep.
You don't want. I had too many infields where Terang is my one or my two, and I'm like, I don't know if I love. Like, I don't know if I want Markel Garcia as my one and Terang as my two. Right? If you start at this point because you went outfielders and pitching and forgot about infielders, because again, not to mislead, you're using the numbers I was saying before. Well, there's so many of them, but they're not as viable. It's not as deep, and there's a lot of platooning also.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm Milwaukee. They're not doing much there. So, where are you going here? Because this is a totally different build for me in my format. But you have your Chris Sales, your only pitcher. Are you going to start getting more pitcher aggressive?
Yeah, I'm gonna tack on
out to get real.
No, I'm gonna tack on. I mean, my next again when I do my ranks, it's funny. This is like experience kind of shining through. I run these through auto so often. And they get shifted so often that I probably could leave these open. My ranks already know it's pitching right. It's my pitching right. I'm trying to decide between. I've got Joe Ryan, George Kirby, and Kyle Bradish up. I've been going with a lot of Ryan, so I'm going to kind of shift to Kirby again, just trying to differentiate a bit on my own end.
Kirby,
but this is a good example for people of I waited.
There was
I really waited on pitching. And Kirby is like an SP1 kind of guy. Chris Sale is an SP1 kind of guy. And I think I wrote about this also. Okay, we're trying to do our thing in this draft season about using. So, Bubba, I took the NFBC pitching ranks. Right, you can't really use ADP, but I took NFBC starting pitcher ranks, which I think are the sharpest in the industry, and compared them to Underdog starting pitcher ranks, which again, the scoring doesn't have to overlap. The ranks should be pretty close, and look for the biggest differences, and those are the guys I'm all drafting. Well, those are all the guys I'm drafting an Underdog. They're the guys that the market loves, that I love, all the nerds love, that for whatever reason are falling back. Chris Sale is one of those guys. Right? Chris Sale is like a top 10 or 12 starter, and he's just kind of being ignored to get him in the 7th round. So 7th round means 6 starting hitters. That's almost your entire start, all your starting hitters, and you have an ace. So sign me up.
Yeah, I nearly took him instead of Cease. I nearly took him instead of Luzardo, but I took both of them. I kept staring at Sale and thinking I should have taken Sale. The fact he falls that far is pretty surprising in these formats.
Same idea though, right? I wasn't trying to knock your. I think that pick is perfect.
Get it. Yeah,
I want to be more. I want to be more different, because it's almost like this happens in the first round. Also, you have the 3 pick. Let's say you get a ton of 3s and you don't get any 4s. Take a couple Ronald Acuñas. I kind of have Soto as my hard number 3, but take a couple of Acuñas. I have Sale as the best pitcher in that little mini blob. But no, you want some Luzardo. You want some Cease. They can go distance. They can get wins. They can get tons of strikeouts. These guys check all of the boxes. The Luzardo thing is really funny too, because dude, it all happened in like those 2 starts.
Yep. Otherwise, he's been out.
But you don't get punished for that in Underdog. Who cares?
Yeah, exactly.
Who cares?
Yeah, those two starts never existed.
No, it doesn't matter at all. And in fact, one more for people that maybe aren't as familiar with the granular scoring. Unlike DraftKings, see, I'm getting ready to do DK.
Yep. There
is no whip element in Underdog. Right? There's no penalty if you're a point player. You kind of are hip to this stuff. Didn't understand what I mean about a whip penalty in point leagues, meaning there's no penalty for walks, there's no penalty for hits, which is why I loved Blake Snell so much before they announced that, of course, he was going to do his annual IL to start the year thing. But a guy like him can walk 3 guys but strike out 3 guys. Who cares? We want the strikeouts. Let's see, man. Back on the clock. It's starting to hum. I'm starting to get a little. Yep. Okay, I'm going to do it. Oh, did I get? No, I didn't. So again, I'm going to do another kind of pairing. I have Jarren Duran.
Bangaliers.
I effed it up. That got messed up. I was supposed to take Rafaela. Again, I'm going to have to make do with Langoliers, which I don't mind, but that was a mistake pick. I'm not sure what happened. I must have. Oh, yeah, it happened. Sometimes the thing dropped down. I made an execution error, but who knows? Again, who knows? Langoliers could be the pick that it wins the whole thing for me, and I go back and quote tweet this pod about how I made a mistake and to win $200K. But I wanted Rafaela to check another outfield box and to pair with Duran. That was supposed to be my pick, but again, we all make mistakes.
We all make mistakes, and that is just part of the game.
Yo, this format in particular, you got to stay on top of it, right? It moves fast sometimes. Don't always get notifications. Happens.
Yes, it happens. It happens indeed. So we're going to start the Rockies wannabe build. I got Brenton Doyle, though. See how much I keep that going. I like Doyle. I think he's in for a bounce-back season, so I'll take my chances. Yeah,
I'm not sure if it was you talking about it or someone else, but I know it was one of my favorite other analysts. And you do a very good job, Bob. I know like I said, I think you overplay the caveman hand, but you and Ryan make a great yin and yang. But one of the things you do speak about, which is very important, is kind of the human element. And he had I don't even want to talk. He had like a massive tragedy,
miscarriage in their family. They lost.
And I know, not to be too personal, I've been there. It's the stone cold worst thing ever. I was lucky. We've been blessed with 2 healthy ones afterwards, so you don't pine on that stuff. But I could tell you straight up, as the man, as the non-physically affected partner, it's a damn disaster and could ruin your life.
Yep.
Whoever's yelling at this guy about baseball stats, right? Don't do that. Don't do that.
Yep. You're an idiot. Let him figure it out. And he got better as the season went on. So it's one of those like.
I mean, plus you get all the other stuff, and it's a good price, and he's got a balanced profile, and he plays in the best ballpark in the world, and we've seen him do it before. There's plenty of cases where he's like 30 picks, undervalued right now.
100%. where are we looking at on this one as you get up here for round
Okay,
one?
let's see. So now we're starting to deviate. We're starting to deviate from the ADP around pick 125, which is kind of what I was mentioning before. Now I'm going to reach on one of my guys because I made the mistake missing on Rafaela, and because I have lots of Nats. So I'm going to go with Dalen Lyle. This time I'm going to make sure I pick the right player. And hold on, can I spam you with some Dalen Lyle propaganda? Could I interest you in any of that?
I love Dalen Lyle, so spam me all you want.
Yeah. Okay, so Dalen Lyle propaganda coming at you right now. Let me get the old spreadsheet going correctly. And he was one of the guys that was kept popping into the vocabulary during the season last year. You know, one of those guys you're telling yourself, okay, be aware, be aware, be aware. It's popped up a little bit in circles, but maybe not to the extent that I thought. Okay, 351 plate appearances. He bat 299, which we love, 51, 41 runs and ribs, 9 8 homer steals, and again at 350 PEs, doing an easy double for 700. And you have a really great pick this late. The 299 BA came on a 309 XBA. Yes, he had an elevated BABIP, which I've heard people try and ding him with. He had a 309 XBA. I'm not sure how much better you want it to be. All the slug was there, 132 WRC plus, a really great approach, right? Single digit swinging strike, 20 CSW, 91 zone contact, while being very aggressive, right? This is something we're not hearing people talk about a lot, is the 52% swing rate. So a lot of times, Bubba, guys boast these great disciplinary metrics, but they have like a 40% swing rate. Yes, it's easy to have, those take numbers when you're not swinging. He's aggressive and maintains the contact, so it's not like a flail job. Me, I'm a honk for line drives. That number was up near 28. I'm a honk for ex-Wobacon. That number was just shy of 400. I'm a honk for elevated pulled balls. That number was at 18%. You're going to miss me, people, with these raw... As we move on, you're missing me more and more with raw barrel numbers. Because they're not all created equal. Anderson is doing work on this. Alex Chamberlain did work on this, how the production that we were getting on barrels was degrading year over year because they're not all the same. That's where Blast came from, long story short. Idea being, or a guy like Jose Ramirez. How many years in a row does Ramirez have to put up a single-digit barrel rate and below-average hard hit rates to convince you he's a 30-homer guy? Because he rips it down the line. He doesn't need 365. He only needs 325, and he can get it for you consistently. So Lyle, in a great environment, in what I think is an ascendant lineup, there's a ton that I love here. Now, man, my ranks are kind of scrambled right now, so I'm kind of getting away from ranks. I wanted to put a bow on my infield. I want my guy Colson Montgomery. He's another guy that I really tend to like. Oh, yeah. So you're digging the power there for Montgomery? Let's go.
That's a ton of points. Like that's the thing with best ball is, the batting average could look like it's going to be a massive deterrent in most formats, I guess. But in best ball, you get that power source, and you can do a lot of things with that.
Yeah, he takes some walks also, right? There's a difference between guys who maybe have in point leagues, I'm saying, guys that maybe have a batting average floor, although the 239 average came with a 243 XBA. The power stuff is just so sexy. 523 X slug, 355 X woba. Again, he's aggressive, but the pull stuff is just insane. 51 pull, 22 air pull, 355 X Woba, like I said, 469 X Wobacon. He gets all the barrels out because if you're watching him, you could tell he's actively trying to get in front of the ball, which again is fine in point leagues. He's going to get there. Plus, the White Sox are not sitting him, right? I would imagine he's playing every day until he's retired, until we get him the gold watch. This guy's going to play every day. So at pick 150 in these best ball leagues, there's such a thing as volume with power. Dude, I think people undersell what clusters of home runs do for you in this format.
Yep, totally agree with that. Home runs go a long, long ways. Dark Sheep, he loves the Dalen Lyle pick. He's got a Dalen Lyle hive mind. He says He says, I know we can't predict triples, but Lyle was tied for fourth most of them last year in 50 less games than guys ahead of him, and it should have been one more since one was inside the park. And triples go a long way in the points as well. Like, people forget about those as he's mentioning. So, Dalen Lyle, I love him. I'm with you guys on that.
Yeah. Sheep. I didn't realize he was following along. Sheep's doing just really awesome work. We're kind of a niche, community, and unfortunately, for the few amount of people that do it, some people are kind of doing it wrong. You hate to see, and you see it, right? You see misuse of projections or misunderstanding of how to apply some of these positional designations and stuff. What do you think about the two of the last three picks? I did my reach. We were talking about this off air. I don't do a lot of reaching, but when I reach, it's for the sky. It's for the sky, right? I'm reaching for the stars. And I grabbed Connor Griffin. He's been one of the hotter picks. He's all the talk on social media right now. But he's a legit pick and player that I think should start the season. But in this format, I'll take a May or June boost. It's fine. I've got studs up top.
Yeah, let's talk Connor Griffin, because we talked about it before the show, and I knew we'd get to it eventually. So in this format, especially, like you just said, if he doesn't come in until May or June, you get that second half push. There's a lot of teams, like we've broken down the winners. I've seen like Sheep's broken them down with me, and I've seen them do it on their shows. Other guys like yourself and others have looked into what the winning formula is. It's not all just guys that start day one. There's going to be injuries. There's guys get called up. Like, people drafted Nick Kurtz late. We saw how that worked. Connor Griffin could be, I'm not saying that you're going to get those numbers, but you know what I'm trying to get at here as a late boost to your squad. So how do you see like the Connor Griffin playing out there, and how would you compare your aggressiveness to take him in a best ball compared to like a season long?
Well, I mean, I'm blaming Derek Hardy for my aggression, because my guy is known to not really like prospects, and the Bat X, which, again, I don't just follow blindly. I had found since its inception was the most in line with my own work, because, again, I was always incorporating a lot of the StatCast data. I had to bring it up because I tweeted about it. I mentioned using Bat X600. So I had mentioned Connor Griffin's Bat X600 on Twitter. It's 254, 73, 63 runs and ribs, 16 and 24 homer steals. And like I said, we know that Derek is, generally kind of cold on prospects. So I was sold. I've been seeing all the hype. We know he could steal a million bases, but he's also got pop. Again, Pittsburgh kind of ascendant, and now they're looking like they may actually give this kid run. I don't know if he's going to be the winning pick, obviously. But I think these are the types of picks that are, I think, too many times in the past, I've taken like vanilla compilers at this point, Bubba. Like I've drafted Luis Arias in the past, and I'm like, what am I doing? He doesn't move the needle. At the end of the year, his point total ends up being there. But like, how many truly like awesome scoring weeks do you get? That's what I doubt.
No, I'm with you, and I love your Lodolo pick, by the way. That's a guy I'm a big fan of. But yes, you got to take it. Like, you don't want to take a full team of shots because you still need somebody to show up. Like, there's always the conversations like a Quan or Brian Reynolds, like, are really great in these formats because they might play 15 out of 18 weeks for you just because they have that baseline. But if you want those spike weeks that help you win the whole darn thing, you need to take a few chances here and there, and
agreed. Absolutely, man. And especially, so I think this really ties into it's been a really good strat episode because it feeds off one another. So my assertion that I want a elite infielder, right? Those guys that you pointed out, feeds this. You don't want to call it a stab pick, but anytime you're taking a prospect, it's a reach, not necessarily reach meaning value, but it's a reach pick, right? It's a high risk pick, right? I think that's fair. It's a high risk pick. Mm-hmm. That becomes palatable when you have foundational pieces in the front that are going to cover your bases. My problem was, and again, it's not that Bryce Terang catching strays today, but like when Bryce Terang is your infielder one, you got to be careful with Connor, as your infielder 5, because you're realistically going to need a lot more weeks out of that guy. Yeah, when Terang has his big weeks, it's going to be big. But when you have like kind of contact guys that have home run profiles that maybe we worry about, right? No one's really expecting Terang to hit 40 bombs this year. That ain't happening. Now, again, I guess the steals could get you there, and they come in clumps too, but my work was showing it's really an OPS kind of thing. You want guys with really high OPS, and they're found at the top of the board, and I spent too many drafts ignoring them.
Well, and to your point, like, yeah, you don't want to take a Trang and then take a risk with Griffin, but it could also be the philosophy of we know the elite outfielders are who they are, so you want to kind of accumulate them early so you can kind of count on them, and then there's a lot more risky plays later. So there you take your risk in your outfield later to compensate for your stud outfielders. It works at all positions, obviously, depending on how you want to drop, what you feel comfortable with. John knows this player pull like the back of his hand, so he can go all over the place with it. Like he just went Lodolo, Rogers. That's what's beautiful about this format. Those are two studs. So he's kind of danced around with pitching. John has. He's got Sale, Kirby, Lodolo, Rogers. Like you can go to battle with those.
Right. Thank you. But that's kind of what I was trying to explain before. Is the pitching thing is like, we have this like really defined macro infield outfield plan, and the pitching, I've been calling it the Oasis. Grab from the Oasis. Grab a spot here, because another mistake that I make too often in the past was, there's a million pitchers. And I love all these guys that I mentioned, all these kind of prospect pitchers or SP5s that I think could be great. You can't roll with 7 or 8 of those guys. There's guys that have Crochet and Sale and Snell and Luzardo, guys that are going to be putting up 50, 60, 80-point weeks. You can't risk having a guy that might not even be in the rotation or weeks that they're not pitching when the schedule doesn't allow for it. So, and this sounds kind of dumb, but at the end, I want to look back at my team and say, is my SP1 an SP1? Yep. Chris Sale is an SP1. Yep. And say, is my SP2 an SP2? And you go, it's George Kirby an SP2. George Kirby is certainly an SP2. But if he was your 1, maybe you say, I don't know. So that tells me get a guy before Kirby. And as really like 1D chess as that is, that's how I've been doing it.
Yeah, just kind of know your tiers, know your pockets, know where you can live. And there's a long ways to go about that. Robert in the chat says, can't wait for baseball season. Laghezza is awesome. Yes, Big John Stud is a beast. So there's no doubt about that. He's the only man I know that can have the same energy level for the entire day on Mike, which is says a lot about his personality and his love. And
we live for this, player. We live for this.
So
right, we don't talk it, we live it.
We live it. We are down to the final 5 rounds, 5 picks coming up here. You have 4 pitchers, 6 infielders, 5 outfielders. So you're rounding into a balanced form. Lets you go a lot of directions, John.
Thing right now, I'm grooving. I'm grabbing high upside pitchers, and what I feel like now, I turned what was a light pitching build into something that might be a strength of depth now. Right, going Lodolo, Rogers, and Sheehan. Sheehan is one of my favorite picks. He was going in the 200s for the entirety of this draft, of this format. He's just now starting to move up into that. What is it, like 50? Where were we, like 16, 15, 16? 16. Yeah, yep, that's it. It was 200, but now by the time I see pick 180, I got a 187. By the time I see pick 180, I'm already thinking about Sheehan. I'm seeing Garrett Cole now. We've been talking about injuries. Where are you on Garrett Cole? He's starting to throw. They said he might pitch in the spring?
That's what they're saying, which is just bonkers to me. If we're going to go that direction, I don't know how or why. But yeah, they still say he's probably not going to be back till close to midseason, and that still keeps me kind of wary of what's going on.
Wait. Could both those things be true? He could pitch in the spring and not be back till the midseason?
He threw his first bullpen the other day. Like they're saying he'll be back probably by like June.
Man, so again, I'm just shouting out the entire community today. But he reminds... So I actually should talk to Andrew about this, because I'd be curious of Guild's opinion, right? Somebody you speak to? Guilds, who's like objectively one of the best not just fantasy baseball players, he's legit one of the best fantasy players, period, on the planet, period. Right?
He's a monster.
Now, from following him, and try, you know what I mean when you say follow him without trying to copy, right? Not trying to copy. Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, but when people show success, you want to mimic that with your own kind of inputs. And I've always felt at the end of the day, Guilds will win something, and the way that he wins, I'm like, get the F out of here, dude. Mm-hmm. He just drafted the best players. Like, he legit just drafted the best players. While I'm worrying about figuring out things that I can't control, like injuries. And I'm not saying I do not want to misframe it as if he ignores injuries. That is not what I mean. But to the point about Cole feels like that type of player, right, in this type of format where he's a legit ace on a winning team. This is a quality start plus win league. And if Gerrit Cole was fully healthy, he'd be going probably right around Sanchez and Yamamoto, if I had to guess.
If he's fully healthy, yes.
Yeah, right. In a world where he was fully healthy, he's that type of player. So meaning in a return where he's 100%, this is a bonus second-round pick or bonus third-round pick on your staff. So again, I didn't mean to... I wanted to shout out Drew. I hope that didn't come out poorly on his account, because again, I'm not trying to tie him to Cole. But that when I see Cole, and it's like positive reports, if he's healthy, and you have a solid staff, right? Because again, this is a world where Gerrit Cole is your fifth or your sixth starter. Make sure that you get guys that are getting innings, right? I wouldn't draft any prospects with Gerrit Cole.
Yeah.
But he feels like a guy that maybe I want. I think I have 0 shares. And I'm battling with, like, if he's one of those picks that I think is a winner or not. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I have 0 Gerrit Cole. I just don't know. Yeah, I
know.
struggle with that. But I agree with your whole statement is, like, why aren't we taking chances later? Especially pitchers, because, like, hitters, there's going to be 7 hitters used every week. Pitchers, it's 3. And we're drafting 6. Some draft 7. Like, if you're drafting 7 pitchers, you better take, like, a Cole or somebody to take a shot with at that point in time.
Funny the way that you put that was kind of simple, but really is just brilliant in its own way. And this is also tied into the point with the infielders. There's only 3 starters. And when you get one foundational piece, they might eat up 33% of your roster the vast majority of the season. If you are pitching, I almost feel like the teams that have the big aces maybe want Gerrit Cole, right? Maybe that's the answer I was looking for. Maybe on this team that I have right now, maybe that's not the answer. I need all those guys, right? I need every bit, because I was kind of front running the SP1. I was kind of front running my SP2. I'm expecting more than the market is. But let's say you got, Skeens and Yamamoto, or Skeens and Sanchez, or Skubal and Sanchez. You should be waiting on pitching. Maybe Cole just becomes part of that, the revolver, right? You spin the roulette wheel, and he's one of the 6 bullets in the chamber. That, again, if he's back on the mound, could be a winning pick any given week, especially 2 starts for the Yankees. You get 2 wins, 20 Ks out of this guy, he could win your leagues.
It goes a long, long ways. That's why, if I take early pitching, which I tend to do a little bit, I wait a bit and then take my chances, because in a perfect world, my first pitchers better be the ones getting used, like, more often than not.
Kelvin, are you ready for the most professional segue of the show? Look at the pick I just made.
Jason Dominguez. Yes, we talked about him as you are a professional. He's falling past pick 220, as John said. He just took him at 211. The Martian is without a home at the moment, but all it takes is an injury or two, John, and God forbid the Yankees have injuries. What's your takes here? Yeah, you wanted to talk about him. I think it's a great topic, because it wasn't too long ago everyone thought he was the best sleeper in baseball, and now he might not even be on our roster.
Okay, this is remarkable what's happening. This is remarkable. I'm not sure what's changed in the past 72 hours, but it's as if, literally, Bubba, he's going through a price shift as if he got hurt. If you look at the site, man, I would love the answer. I wonder if any of the people in the chat actually do know the answer of how often their ADP updates. Because if you look at the site right now, Dominguez's ADP is listed as 178. Right? I'm literally live on the site. Current ADP 178. I got him at pick 211. When does an injured player fall 3 full rounds at the most scarce position, right? It's objectively the most scarce position on arguably one of the best offenses. The market called him pick 178 for enough of these drafts that's where he was landing. And Dude, this literally just happened the other day. And again, my hand is in the damn dirt all the time in these drafts. So all of a sudden, I'm like, Dominguez at the top of my draft, but I already had my 6 outfielders. Dominguez at the top of my draft.
Yeah, we got an answer. We got an answer for you. Best ball ADPs update every day at 7:15.
Oh, no. I'm sorry. I didn't mean every day. What sample of ADP are we using? Meaning,
gotcha.
At what point will...
How many drafts accumulate?
Yeah. At what point will Dominguez reflect a 200 ADP at this pace?
And is that just Dinger ADP or is it all draft ADP?
I don't know the answer. This is a really good one. I want to know this. I'm gonna go in somebody's DMs and look for the answer. I don't know. I'm probably gonna tag Tuma. I don't even know. I honestly don't know who to ask. I might have tagged Sheep. I don't know anybody, because that's a good question, because that will also, how do I put this? Okay. Understanding how often the ADP kind of refreshes, whatever the word I'm looking for is, should answer how much we want to overpay on our favorite kind of hot players. Okay, so a guy like Sheehan was a really good example. His ADP, I am noticing it's starting to fall, which is the only reason I think he lasted to 185. I've been regularly seeing him go around 170. So I have those numbers in my head. There was a point when I knew his ADP was showing, 185 and I want to be 4. So I have to know that. Dominguez, at what point are we going to say, like, this isn't? I don't want to say it's an obvious steal, because dude, we haven't even talked about the guy. I'm not even high on damn Jason Dominguez. But the Yankees are hanging on by a thread. Are we so bold to say Giancarlo Stanton is what? He's going to play 150 games? Are we insane? Can you even name the Yankees' 4th outfielder? Can anybody name the Yankees' 4th outfielder? I'm not even sure if they have one on roster resource right now. They're a disaster right now.
That's hilarious. Yeah, because it's on paper, you got Judge, Grisham.
Dude, it's Ahmed Rosario.
Yeah, Ahmed Rosario. Good Lord.
It's Ahmed Rosario. And it's like they're waiting on an outfielder. From what I understand, Volpe is progressing pretty nicely. That always felt like more like a split, if anything, with Caballero. I mean, I think if I'm not mistaken, I think he might have gotten some run also out there. But he's not. Yeah, he did. Okay, he did. He got 10 games. Yeah, he played some right field, a little left, and a little bit of center, but I don't feel like he's an everyday outfielder. The point being, Jason Dominguez could be a starter for the Yankees by May. And if Stanton's injury history is any indication, he will be. And so I went from like no shares of Jason Dominguez to now I'm 100% Jason Dominguez, because he's falling into the last round. And I just, like, I don't get it. So am I jumping the shark with this guy or what?
No, not at all. I fully see where you're coming from on this, because I used to be a gigantic Jason Dominguez fan, and then it just kind of fell flat. It just never really happened. But I'm a believer in the skills. Again, we talked about this before. It might be blind belief in these skills, but at the same time, it's like, I don't know. I think there is a lot to like there with Jason Dominguez. And,
I have it on good authority. He's the next Mike Trout.
There you go. That's what they say. That's what some of the experts have said. So, who are we to disagree?
God, what a miss. Dude, I mean, are we ever going to learn? We are never going to learn. We are never going to learn. Between Kelnick and, Dominguez, it's just, there's no certainties, right? There are just no certainties.
There are zero certainties in life on these. But, all right, my roster is full. Your roster is full. So we have wrapped up the draft. We'll start to wrap this show up, my friend, as we're getting closer to 2 hours here, and we both have stuff to do today. But final thoughts. We talked season long. We talked some best ball. Those of you in the chat that joined us for best ball, thank you a ton for doing so. Final thoughts on draft season so far, as it is mid-February, about a little over a month and a half before real games start to play.
The only thing I can think of right now is how much I love you right now, and hopefully I get to run up with Brian and Ryan, and we could do a little foursome. Me, you, and Lumi. We can catch up. But yeah, thanks for having me, dude. You're the man. I really love your work. I think, all kidding aside, because I hate the glazing stuff, you have done more growth as like a because I remember analysts we get a bad reputation as players, and I think you kind of like embraced your flaws, and now come off as like a dude like a really good player. Like you come off like a really. I always thought you were a very good analyst. Your shows are always very good. You're a fantastic host. I think people know that. But you've done like we've watched you kind of grow as a player, like because you're doing everything you do is in public. So it can be hard to take all those L's in public, but looking back, you're much better for it. I'm telling you, man, it really something like. And I know I'm not the only one saying it either. I talked to some of the old curmudgeons, in the old group chat. I taught them how to text, and send emojis. But no, really, props to you guys, and good luck on the FSWA. I hope you guys win the podcast awards. As much as I love all the other people I've mentioned and do list, anybody I mention is because I mention their work and I respect their work and follow it. You guys, I think, are it right now. If I got to pick one, it's you guys. And if I'm going to lose another FSWA to anybody in the writing stuff, hopefully it's Lumi. But do I have to hang another golden sombrero? Jeez Louise. Brutal, bro.
I was told it's an honor to be nominated. Well, real quick, plug your stuff before you head out
here. Enough of me shaking my butt trying to get to get you into the champagne room. Just check out the Twitter stuff. Again, I like to think if you gravitate to Bubba, there's a lot of overlap here. We really do care. We actually play the stuff. We are very open about the process. We're very open about the losses. We don't pretend to know everything. And we like to have fun and actually help people, So, what's a better pitch than that? Check out the Twitter handle. And if you follow me up and hit me up. You don't have to pay. It's not all about dollars and cents. You don't have to pay. I like to get asked questions in the public forum because I have a bad habit of answering DMs like in detail, and we're not sharing it. So that would be the one thing. If you want to ask me a question, do it in public, tag me. And good luck this year, Bubba. Hopefully I catch up with you soon.
Good luck to you as well. We definitely need to catch up.
I want to win this thing or bad, bro. I really do.
You're going to put the time in. I can see it. But
yeah, I want to win.
Follow Big John Stud on Twitter at John Laghezza and check out his work. It is quality stuff. And until next time, this was Benched with Bubba, episode 835. Catch y'all later.